You can now automatically arrange parts with just a few mouse clicks. This amazing new addition to Fusion 360 will make nesting CNC parts simpler and more efficient. Even if you don't have a CNC, this can be helpful if you're looking to map out how much lumber you'll need or to set up layouts for other machines such as laser cutters. We'll also take a look at one other new feature. To access these new features, you'll have to make sure that you get the latest version of Fusion 360. You should have version number 2.0.8749 or newer. Second, these features are still in preview mode, so we'll have to turn them on in our preferences. We'll select our profile photo or initials in the upper right, Preferences, and then the Preview Features tab at the bottom of the list. There are a lot of new features being tested, so we can sort by the manufacturer workspace. We can then turn on the Arrange feature. You'll see that we also need to turn on the option Manufacturing Working Model. Now this one is required to use the Arrange feature, and we'll talk about why in a minute. Let's hit the Apply button and close the dialog. Remember, these features are considered pre-release as they're still working out the final bugs. So be sure to test them out, and you can share your feedback by commenting on this video or by commenting on the Fusion 360 Feedback Hub. If you didn't see the two options within the preview features, then that means the features are now released and you can proceed with the rest of this tutorial without having to enable them. I've gone ahead and created this example flat pack side table. We'll use it as an example to arrange all the parts within a 4x8 sheet of plywood. We'll also create copies to test out how the new feature adapts. Once you're done creating your model in the design workspace, we can head to the manufacturer workspace. Of course, we'll simply switch by using the workspaces dropdown. To use the Arrange feature, we'll have to create a manufacturing model. We can right-click on the manufacturing models option in the browser, followed by Create Manufacturing Model. This essentially creates a one-for-one copy of the design workspace model that you see at the top of the browser, and it creates a new copy in the Manufacturing Models section. Why we're doing this will make more sense in a second. In short, our manufacturing model can be altered in the manufacturer workspace without affecting the original model. However, if we update the size or dimensions of the original model in the design workspace, then the manufacturing model will automatically get the updates. To edit this manufacturing model, we have to right-click on it in the browser and select the Edit option. Notice how that puts us in a brand new environment where we can still access some of the standard solid and surface tools. You'll also notice that we have some new features that we can use to alter the model. I'm first going to create a new component to mimic a sheet of plywood. I'll make a new sketch and create a rectangle on the bottom origin plane. We can then make this 4 feet by 8 feet for our sheet of plywood. You'll find the Arrange feature works nicely with sketches, so it's not required that we extrude this. Let's go ahead and finish the sketch. I'm also going to activate the top level component. Now this is also not required, but I want all the parts to be visible so it's easier to see. We can now activate the Arrange feature in the Modify dropdown. Note that it's only available because we're in this manufacturing model environment. Remember, you can always click the 3 dot setting icon to add this to your toolbar or to assign a custom keyboard shortcut. We first have to select the bodies of the parts that we want to arrange. Now we can select the bodies of the model or select them in the browser. Next, we have to define the plane or sketch that we want to use. It will then use that selection to arrange the parts. Sketches are the preferred method as they have a predefined boundary. If you decide to choose a plane, you'll be able to define the boundary dimensions. Right now, the parts are on top of my sketch. You'll see that we can also use the flip button if we need them to go in the other direction. There's also a flip button tied to each of the objects above. Now, flipping the orientation could be helpful if you need to machine a specific side of the part. Lastly, we can change some of the spacing. I like to have at least 2 inches around the edge of a sheet, so you'll see that if I type out 2 inches, it will automatically rearrange the parts away from the edge. The item separation option lets us define the space between each object. I'll change this to 10 inches so you can see that it's working. And let's go ahead and change this back to 1 inch. Hopefully by now you're excited, as this arrange feature is a game changer for Fusion 360. If you haven't heard, they announced in June of 2020 that the arrange feature is just one workflow of a full-on Nest workspace, which will take this functionality even further. The Nest workspace will work with sheet metal components, and it will also have a ton of other features to help with nesting. If you're looking forward to the Nest workspace, then comment nesting down below. And if you don't think you'll use the Nest workspace, then comment design workspace down below. Let's create another copy of this design to see how it arranges the parts. We'll then look at another cool feature and the benefit of this new concept of a manufacturing model. I'm going to shift-click the 3 components in the browser, and I'll paste a copy of them. I'm going to drag the arrange feature to the end of the timeline and double-click to edit the feature. We can now select the additional 3 bodies. You'll see that it now arranges all 6 bodies. You're probably thinking that this layout isn't the best use of material. Fortunately, optimizing material is something that the full Nest workspace will be able to take care of. For now, we can manually move parts after the arrange feature, or we can add additional sketches within our sketch. The arrange feature will then avoid them. Let's click OK to confirm the arrange feature. If we edit the plywood sketch, we can add additional sketch geometry within it. We can right-click on the arrange feature, and you'll find the edit sketch area, which will take us right to the edit state of our sketch. Let's simply place a circle somewhere within this 4x8 rectangle. I'll also place another rectangle. These will act as areas of the plywood that we've already used. We may not have enough room for all 6 parts on the sheet, at least not without the optimization of the full Nest workspace. I'll edit the arrange command and remove a few of the bodies by selecting the X in the dialog. Now watch what happens if we manually adjust the sketch. You'll see that the arranged parts update accordingly. If they disappear, then it means there isn't enough room for all of the parts. You'll see the arranged parts reappear if I make the sketch object smaller. Lastly, let's take a look at one of the benefits of this concept of a manufacturing model. While in this manufacturer model state, you'll see that we have 3 new features in the Modify section of the toolbar. The first 2, Remove Features and Remove Faces, will let us take away any unwanted features that we may have used for design purposes, but we don't want them in the manufacturer workspace. The third new feature lets us quickly replace bodies with primitives. As an example, we may just want to cut out the cylinder shape of the tabletop, as we'll cut the slots out afterward. We could use this feature to quickly swap out this part with a cylinder primitive. If I zoom in on the model, you'll see that I applied fillets and chamfers to these parts while I was in the design workspace. Now I don't want those to appear here. That will let us set up our CAM toolpaths without those getting in the way. Using the Remove Features command, you'll find that we can quickly take away fillets, chamfers, holes, extrudes, and many other things. I'm going to leave the chamfer and fillet options selected. I'll then select all 6 bodies. Once the appropriate bodies are selected, we simply need to select the red X in the dialog. As you can see, this takes away all of those features. We can now set up our CAM file without having to worry about them. This new concept is really powerful, further adding to Fusion 360's flexibility in each workspace. If I flip back to the design workspace, you'll see that all of the fillets and chamfers are still present. Also, notice how I only have one copy of the model and the 4x8 plywood sketch doesn't exist here. That's all because I created those within the manufacturing model. Using the concept of manufacturing models lets us alter our model for manufacturing purposes without affecting the design model in any other workspaces. As I mentioned earlier, changes made to the design file will be pushed to the manufacturing model. For example, I'll change the tabletop to a diameter of 18 inches. If I switch back to the manufacturer workspace, you'll see that it automatically loads the updates, and our arranged layout will adapt accordingly. To summarize, creating manufacturer models will allow you to access the Arrange feature, making nesting parts easier than ever. They also let us remove unwanted design features without affecting the original design model. That means we can keep the design model as is and continue to use it for renderings, simulations, and other workflows. Last but not least, I want to give a quick shout out to all those who supported the channel over the past 2 weeks. Special thanks to the new patrons, Wallace, Anthony, Naveen, Tom, Jay, Patrick, Billy, Jeff, Noel, James, Bobby, and JR. And thanks to Michael and David who supported via my Buy Me a Coffee page. If you're interested in Fusion 360 for woodworking projects, then be sure to check out my new masterclass. I've put a link in the video description. You can also click that playlist in the lower right-hand corner to watch my free Woodworkers playlist right here on YouTube.